My town had a massacre 50 years ago. I think the victims just came back. I grew up in Hollow Creek, Kentucky. Population 2,400. The kind of place where everyone knows your business before you do, where the diner closes at 6 p.m., and where nobody talks about what happened on Redmond Farm in 1975. I only learned about it because of Mrs. Bellamy. She was my neighbor growing up, and when I was 9 years old, she caught me playing near the old barn at the edge of town. She grabbed my arm so hard it left bruises and dragged me back to my house. She didn't say a word to my mom, just pointed at me, then walked away shaking. That night, I asked my dad what her problem was. He got real quiet, then told me to never go near that property again. When I asked why, all he said was 14 people died there, Nate. Leave it alone. I did my research over the years. Found the old newspaper clippings in the library basement. March 15th, 1975. A man named Gerald Redmond invited 13 neighbors to his farm for a spring celebration. Dinner, dancing, the whole thing. None of them came home. The police found the bodies 3 days later in the barn. All 14 of them, including Gerald himself. They'd been arranged in a circle, hands bound, throats cut. No suspects, no motive. Case went cold within 6 months. The town buried it, literally. They demolished the barn in 1982 and built a small memorial garden that nobody visits. I drove past it every day on my way to work for years and never thought twice about it. That changed last Tuesday. I was driving home around 11 p.m. after a late shift at the distribution center when I saw someone standing in the memorial garden. A woman in a pale blue dress, just standing perfectly still near the stone marker. I slowed down but didn't stop. Probably just some drunk from the bar down the road. The next morning, my coworker Danny asked if I'd heard the news. Apparently 6 different people reported seeing a woman in old-fashioned clothing walking down Birch Street at 3 a.m. She was barefoot. She was smiling. And when someone tried to talk to her, she just tilted her head and asked, "Is it March yet?" I tried to brush it off. Small towns get weird sometimes. Then the sightings multiplied. A man in overalls standing in the grocery store parking lot at midnight. A young couple holding hands outside the elementary school, neither of them blinking. An old woman sitting on the bench outside the post office before dawn, humming a song that nobody recognized. Every single one of them matched descriptions from the 1975 articles. Last night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Mrs. Bellamy and how scared she looked when she found me near that barn. So I pulled up the old photos on my laptop, the ones from the newspaper archives. 14 faces, 14 names. I studied them until my eyes burned. At 2:47 a.m. I heard footsteps on my front porch. I grabbed my phone and crept to the window. Standing on my lawn were 8 people, 4 men, 4 women. All of them dressed like they'd stepped out of a 1970s catalog. All of them staring directly at my window. I recognized Gerald Redmond from the photos. He was standing in the center of the group. His throat had a dark line across it that glistened under the streetlight. I stumbled back and called 911. The dispatcher told me they'd send someone over. 20 minutes later, Deputy Warren knocked on my door. I let him in and told him everything. He walked outside to check. Nobody was there. But this morning I found something on my porch. A handwritten invitation on yellowed paper. The ink was brown and flaking. It read, "You are cordially invited to a spring celebration at Redmond Farm, March 15th, 1975. Dinner will be served at 8 p.m. We've been waiting so long for you to join us." At the bottom, in fresher ink, someone had written my name, my full name, Nathan James Whitfield, and underneath that, a number, 15/15. I counted the original victims again, 14. Gerald plus 13 guests. I think they've been waiting 50 years for the last one. I drove past the memorial garden an hour ago. All 14 of them were standing there in broad daylight. Nobody else on the street seemed to notice them. But Gerald saw me. He smiled and held up his hand. He was holding another invitation. I don't know what happens on March 15th, but according to my calendar, that's in 6 days. And I just checked my mailbox. There's an envelope inside. No return address.